Imagine our planet, the vibrant blue sphere we call home, stripped of its icy crown. The Arctic, once a realm of shimmering glaciers and snow-covered plains, transforms into an open ocean. Antarctica, the frozen continent twice the size of Australia, shrinks as its ice sheets crumble and melt into the rising seas. This is not a scene from a science fiction film. It is the stark reality we face if the polar ice caps disappear. They act as Earth's refrigerator, regulating global temperatures and influencing weather patterns across continents. The vast expanses of ice reflect sunlight back into space, helping to cool the planet. The signs are already apparent: rising sea levels, shrinking glaciers, and more frequent extreme weather events. The polar ice caps are not merely frozen wastelands. They are intricate and dynamic systems that play a crucial role in regulating Earth's climate. One of their primary functions is to regulate global temperatures. The vast, white surfaces of ice and snow act like giant mirrors, reflecting a significant portion of incoming solar radiation back into space. This phenomenon, known as the albedo effect, helps to cool the planet and keep temperatures within a habitable range. Cold, dense water from the poles sinks and flows towards the equator, while warmer water from the tropics flows towards the poles, creating a global circulation system. This process helps to moderate temperatures and distribute nutrients vital for marine life. Polar bears, walruses, seals, and countless other species have adapted to survive in these extreme environments, relying on the ice for hunting, breeding, and shelter. Perhaps the most immediate and visible consequence of melting polar ice caps is the rise in sea levels. The ice sheets of Greenland and Antarctica hold immense quantities of frozen water, enough to raise global sea levels by over 200 feet if completely melted. As global temperatures rise due to human-induced climate change, these ice sheets are melting at an alarming rate. This meltwater flows into the oceans, causing sea levels to rise gradually but relentlessly. Low-lying coastal areas, home to a significant portion of the world's population, are particularly vulnerable. Coastal ecosystems such as mangroves, salt marshes, and coral reefs would be submerged and destroyed, impacting marine life and the livelihoods of people who depend on them. Beyond the immediate threat of rising sea levels, the melting of polar ice caps would disrupt the delicate balance of ocean currents, which play a crucial role in regulating Earth's climate. These currents act like a global conveyor belt, distributing heat and nutrients around the planet. The influx of massive amounts of fresh water from melting ice sheets would alter the salinity and density of ocean water, affecting the way currents circulate. This change in circulation patterns can have a domino effect, influencing weather systems and marine life. One of the most significant concerns is the potential disruption of the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or AMOC, a major ocean current system that transports warm water from the tropics northward and cold water southward. This system is vital for maintaining the climate balance in the North Atlantic region. The influx of fresh water from melting ice sheets could weaken the AMOC by reducing the density of surface water, making it less likely to sink. This reduction in sinking water can slow down the entire circulation process. A weakening or collapse of this crucial current system would have far-reaching consequences for global climate patterns. It could lead to more extreme weather events such as stronger storms and prolonged droughts. Changes in ocean circulation could also disrupt marine ecosystems, affecting fish populations and other marine life. This disruption could impact the livelihoods of communities that depend on fishing and marine resources. The disappearance of polar ice caps would also amplify the albedo effect, creating a vicious cycle of warming. As ice melts, it exposes darker surfaces like ocean water and land, which absorb more solar radiation and heat up. This increase in absorbed heat further accelerates the melting of remaining ice, creating a positive feedback loop. As more ice melts, the albedo effect is further reduced, leading to more warming and even more melting. This cycle can lead to rapid and dramatic changes in climate with potentially catastrophic consequences. The amplified albedo effect would contribute to a warmer planet overall, but the effects would be most pronounced in polar regions, leading to even faster warming in these areas. The Arctic and Antarctic regions may seem like desolate wastelands to some, but they are, in fact, teeming with life uniquely adapted to survive in these extreme environments. These ecosystems are incredibly fragile and are facing unprecedented threats due to climate change and human activities. From the iconic polar bears roaming the Arctic ice floes to the vast colonies of penguins nesting on the Antarctic shores, these creatures depend on the existence of ice for their survival. The ice provides a critical habitat and hunting ground for these animals. Polar bears, for instance, rely on sea ice as a platform to hunt seals, their primary food source. Without this ice, their ability to find food is severely compromised. As sea ice shrinks and retreats further away from the coast, polar bears are forced to travel longer distances, expending more energy and facing increased competition for dwindling prey. This not only affects their physical health but also their reproductive success. This can lead to starvation, lower cub survival rates, and ultimately population decline. The sight of emaciated polar bears struggling to find food is becoming increasingly common. In the Antarctic, penguins rely on sea ice for breeding, molting, and accessing their feeding grounds. The stability of their environment is crucial for their life cycles. Loss of sea ice would disrupt their breeding cycles, reduce the availability of nesting sites, and increase the risk of chick mortality. The delicate balance of their ecosystem is at risk. The disappearance of krill, tiny crustaceans that form the base of the Antarctic food web, would have cascading effects throughout the ecosystem. This would not only impact penguins but also other marine animals that rely on krill as a primary food source. While the disappearance of polar ice caps would have the most immediate and devastating impact on polar ecosystems, the consequences would be felt far beyond these frozen frontiers. Human communities around the world, particularly those in coastal areas, would face unprecedented challenges, including displacement, conflict over resources, and economic instability. As sea levels rise, coastal communities would be inundated, displacing millions of people from their homes and forcing them to migrate inland. This mass displacement would strain resources, infrastructure, and social systems, potentially leading to conflict and instability. Low-lying island nations, some barely above sea level, would face an existential threat with their very existence at stake. The loss of coastal land would also have significant economic consequences. The displacement of populations and disruption of supply chains would further exacerbate the economic fallout, potentially triggering global recession and instability. The potential consequences of disappearing polar ice caps paint a bleak picture, but it is not a foregone conclusion. The melting ice is a stark reminder of the urgency of our situation, but it also serves as a call to action. While the situation is urgent, it is not insurmountable. We have the power to change the trajectory of our planet's future. We have the knowledge, the tools, and the capacity to mitigate the worst effects of climate change and chart a more sustainable path forward. Renewable energy sources like wind and solar power are becoming more efficient and accessible every day. The most critical step is to drastically reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, the primary driver of global warming. This means transitioning away from fossil fuels and embracing cleaner energy solutions. This requires a multifaceted approach, including transitioning to cleaner sources of energy, improving energy efficiency, reducing deforestation, and promoting reforestation efforts to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and adopting sustainable agricultural practices. These practices not only reduce emissions, but also enhance the resilience of our food systems. International cooperation and individual actions are both essential in this global endeavor. Governments, businesses, and individuals all have a role to play. While mitigation is crucial, adaptation is equally important. We must build resilient communities that can withstand the impacts of climate change. We must invest in strategies to adapt to the changes that are already underway and prepare for future impacts. This includes developing climate-resilient infrastructure and supporting communities in their adaptation efforts. The challenge before us is immense, but it is not insurmountable. With collective effort and determination, we can overcome it. The choices we make today will determine the course of history. Our actions now will shape the world for future generations. Let us choose wisely and act decisively to preserve the wonders of our planet for generations to come. The future of our world is in our hands.